As summer faded into autumn in the small town of Argyle, New York, Robert Hiltzik and his crew descended upon Camp Algonquin in 1982 to bring his vision to life. Filmed on a budget of $350,000 over the course of 5 weeks, Sleepaway Camp began to take form, crafting together a film unlike anything we had ever seen before. A year later, Sleepaway Camp premiered in New York on November 18th, opening to mixed reviews and shocking its audiences. And while some compared it to Friday the 13th, the only things the two films had in common was that it took place in a camp and someone was killing people at camp. Sleepaway Camp went on to gross $11 million, quickly gaining a cult following, and has found new audiences in our changing cultural landscapes as the film was far ahead of its time. To continue our celebration of Felissa Rose here on Nerdbox, here are the 5 behind-the-scenes stories from her debut film, Sleepaway Camp, that you may not have,
or probably,
heard of.
Number 5.
They say in Hollywood that the toughest acting job is the one where you need to act opposite kids or animals. For some lucky actors, they get to do both. With Sleepaway Camp's cast primarily comprised of teens and having already dealt with some of the expected hurdles that it comes with, there were also some unexpected events that one might not plan for when making a film like this. One such event brought production to a complete halt and required director Hiltzik to trade his director's cap for a guidance counselor's cap. Being young and impressionable, it was likely that there would be some autumn romance in the air, and Felissa soon had eyes for her co-star Jonathan Tiersten, who played her cousin Ricky in the film. And there was a bit of an age difference between the two, with Tiersten being 17 and Felissa 13. The puppy love was short-lived, as extras were soon brought in for the volleyball scene. The girls were older and around the same age as Tiersten, catching his eye. Devastated and heartbroken, Felissa shut down, no longer wanting to act in the film, causing production to halt until Hiltzik intervened and took the two teens out for a night of bowling to help them settle any animosity that arose between them.
Number 4. Sleepaway Camp was groundbreaking in many ways, one being the age of its cast. Typically, when it comes to R-rated films and casting child actors, studios will cast older actors ranging from their late teens to mid-20s for the roles. This is not solely due to the sensitive nature of the content, although it does allow for edgy scenes to be filmed. It is also because of child labor laws and time restrictions that come with casting younger actors. Director Robert Hiltzik was well aware of these restrictions, but wanted to make a camp horror film with the realism of kids being kids. We all have had that moment in a horror film where we are like, wow, that 13-year-old looks to have gone through puberty with their 5 o'clock shadow or breasts bursting out from under their taped down sports bra under a t-shirt with rainbows and unicorns on it. Then you learn that the person playing the role is 27 or sometimes older, causing you to lose some of the connection with the film. Prior to Sleepaway Camp, Linda Blair had been the youngest female supporting lead in an R-rated horror film, appearing as Regan McNeil in The Exorcist at the age of 14 in 1973. 10 years later, we would get our youngest female lead in an R-rated film, Felissa Rose making her on-screen debut at the age of 13, playing Angela in the film. This feat would not last long, as only 5 short years later, Danielle Harris made her film debut starring in Halloween 4. Number 3.
Casting for Sleepaway Camp wasn't an easy task due to the film's antagonist being a teenage slasher, along with some of the topics covered in the film that were very taboo for the early 80s. There were a lot of no's from parents, but unlike the rest, Felissa Rose's mother was excited for the opportunity that her daughter had and agreed to do the film under some conditions. The first condition being that the killer committing the acts on camera could never be Felissa herself, and while throughout the movie we only see the killer's hands, these weren't Felissa's, which has led to some fan theories about there being two killers in the film. Those infamous killer hands that are seen actually belong to Ricky, who is portrayed by Jonathan Tiersten. It was written into Felissa Rose's contract that she would not actually do any of the killings on screen because her mother did not want her to experience that type of behavior, feeling that it was inappropriate. So Tiersten, who was similar in size, donned a wig and stepped in for those scenes. This is very noticeable in one scene when we see Angela standing in the doorway of Judy's cabin just before she is killed with a curling iron.
Number 2. But what about the ending? As shocking as it may be, if there was discussion about Felissa Rose being the killer on screen, you have to imagine that the same could be said for that final scene. After all, she would not be killing anyone. Felissa's mother was approached with an idea of how they could pull off the finale. This would involve Felissa having to strap on a prosthetic penis. Felissa's mother balked at the idea, and we are pretty sure that a scene like this would have garnered an X rating and possible legal ramifications. This left director Hiltzik with having to fill this role in the single most important scene of the film. Other members of the cast were asked to no luck, prompting Hiltzik to find and hire a local college student who they shaved down and provided with some liquid courage to be Felissa's stand-in on that cold October night next to the lake. In order to pull off the scene, they had to transpose Felissa's face onto the hired actor, and having already been behind in filming and with a limited budget, it left them with limited options. A thin paper mask was created from a plaster mold of Felissa's face in that now iconic pose that the college student wore under his wild wig, which looks a tad out of place but only adds to the horrific image that burns into one's mind after having watched it. Number 1.
Unfortunately, Schoolgirl Crushers were not the only real-life teen drama that cropped up during and even after filming. With the often overlooked theme of being bullied playing out in the film, it was off-screen as well. One might think because of how the character Angela appeared on film that Felissa was possibly one and the same. However, she was quite the opposite on set, and she even formed a close friendship with her on-screen bullies, Judy and Meg. This wasn't the same experience for everyone. Similar to his character in the film, Mozart, Willie Cuskin, was being picked on by other cast members in the film. The hazing at some points got so bad that the actor Frank Trent Saladino, Mozart's counselor Gene, had to step in and stop things from escalating any further. Felissa would not go unscathed though. After the film released, instead of causing the teen to rise in popularity at her school, she became the subject of repeated bullying and hazing from the kids in her school, prompting her mother to pull Felissa out of the school that she had been attending and sending her to a different one. If only real-life bullies faced harsh consequences similar to those who crossed Angela did. No. We are not condoning vigilante justice. We're not that twisted. It's just time that kids do not have to fear going to school, and programs should be put in place where bullies is met with harsh and strict penalties. Do you agree with our list, or do you have a suggestion for something that we should cover in a future list? Let us know by dropping that in the comments. And don't forget,
like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Thank you as always. We appreciate you for watching, and until the next.
See ya.